It's the Suncast podcast, covering the Sun Conference and all its sports.
What's up, Suncast Nation? It's your boy Manny here, and I'm going to bring you this edition of Suncast as we preview the weekend that's here by the time you guys are listening to this on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, as well as on YouTube watching. Hopefully you are liking, subscribing, commenting, and doing all that good stuff. But it's going to be myself previewing the weekend with men's soccer, women's soccer, and volleyball. All Sun Conference games are here in those three respective sports. Then it'll be myself and JB talking a little bit about Sun Conference football, on what's some top 25 matchups, some matchups we're excited for, some things we're going to keep an eye on. And then we're going to move into an interview with myself and Miss Lauren Riley from Kaiser University Women's Soccer on their great start and her great performances so far. Really excited for you guys to listen to that one. But we are going to start with women's soccer, as they're going into this weekend. Overall, we have 5 games for Saturday, pretty jam-packed Saturday. We've got 4 conference games, and we have 2 non-conference games. I'll start with the non-conference games. Thomas at SCAD, and then we have Weber at Florida Memorial. Florida College, excuse me. I like SCAD, obviously, in their matchup against Thomas. Do think the SCAD Bees need to have a little bit of a predominant performance. I would like to see a 3-goal or more type of game for them. As for Warner, I think they're scrappy. They can make this a gritty game. I like Warner, and at least a tie, may even be able to sneak out a win over Florida College. I do think that Sun Conference goes pretty perfect in non-conference games this weekend or later today. As for the conference games, we have New College of Florida at Kaiser. We have Southeastern at Ave, and then we have Weber at Florida Memorial. I'll start with that last one. I think that one is the hardest one to call. I actually have that one in a tie, whether it's 0-0, 1-0, whatever the count. I just think we have 2 scrappy teams here. For me, I'd like to see more about Florida Memorial side. Obviously, best starting program history. Obviously, coming off some big wins. Obviously, the performing that they have been doing to start this season has been exceedingly better than what it was last year. I still need to see it in conference. I'm excited. I like what they're doing. I like the way the team is gelling. I like the performances we're seeing. I would love to see a very big game from Sierra Bartelli after a great outing against Florida College. She had 4 goals, went 5 for 5 on shots on target. She has 8 goals on the season right now. I really, really, really like the way she is kind of leading this Lions team. I want to see it in conference. And I think starting against a Weber team that's scrappy, a Weber team that on their own front, they're trying to make some noise. They're trying to kind of shake up some things in the conference. And you're at home. Florida Memorial, I think this is the perfect way to start your conference run. I still think, for me, if you had to make me pick, I don't know which way I would lean. That's why I'm going with the tie. I just think we have 2 teams that are similar in the sense of they're trying to make some noise. Or one team who in Weber who's kind of been middle of the pack for a few years now, and the Florida Memorial team who's kind of trying to make a name for themselves. You could lean to Florida Memorial because they are at home, but I still think that Weber can fight through and at least get a tie situation on either end. We'll go from Weber, Florida Memorial to Southeastern and Ave. I have Southeastern winning, but this is my upset alert game, simply because Ave has had a knack for coming through in clutch situations. Obviously, they haven't necessarily played a team of Southeastern's talent of their prowess at this point in the season, but you still feel confident in that you've been in some pretty thrilling late execution games. You've been in some tight ones throughout. Southeastern should win this game. I'm not thinking that Ave is gonna necessarily pull off the upset. However, if it stays close late, it increases Ave's chances. Southeastern has the better talent. I need them to play with the chip on their shoulder. They just dropped out of the top 25 this past polls. They're still receiving votes. I think they need to send a message here. The caveat, and it's kind of why I'm leaning more towards the upset, Ave is at home. And Ave is a pretty formidable team at home. So start conference play, I would not be surprised as Ave comes out guns blazing, putting a lot of pressure on Southeastern and testing the fire early. Southeastern should be able to come away with this. I don't necessarily see it a big win for Southeastern. I think 1 to 2 goals is going to be the difference in the end. That's also why I see Ave kind of lingering. If Southeastern doesn't put them away early, doesn't apply pressure, doesn't dominate possession, doesn't do the things that they normally do, Ave will be able to make you pay down the stretch of games. They are very, very good. They have a knack for just when you think you have them, or when they catch you kind of on your back foot, they make you pay. So Southeastern, believe they'll get the win, but I do have that one on upset alert just because of the way Ave has been playing as of late. And then we have the final women's soccer conference game this Saturday. New College of Florida at Kaiser. I got Kaiser. I think this is a clear cut one. It's the best team in the conference right now, rolling into conference play. I think they are going to be extremely formidable. They are at home. They're coming off of receiving the number 2 slot in the NAIA polls. They have 2 big wins over top 25 teams at the time that were higher than them, that were in the top 3, I believe, at in those cases in Tennessee Southern and William Carey. Kaiser is Kaiser right now. They seem like a team who knew that last year was a down year, knew that last year was not what they normally do, and are on a mission to prove that. They're on a mission to say that that was the fluke, and we're back to what we're doing. So I do have Kaiser in this one. I think New College can make it interesting. I do think New College has the ability to maybe catch them off guard, maybe at the beginning. The thing with New College is you're going to have to play perfect soccer. You're going to have to make sure your shots are on target. You're going to have to make sure that you don't give Kaiser any, good set pieces, multiple corner kicks, situations like that, because the Seahawks will make you pay, and they have a knack for putting the ball in the back of the net. I do have Kaiser on that in this one. I just think it's the best team in the conference right now, going into against a team that is new to the conference. While they may have had some experiences with Kaiser in the past, and you're at home in Kaiser's case, I think it's a pretty clear-cut situation there for Kaiser. We move on from women's soccer, and we're going to go over to volleyball. As of right now, we actually did have a game, or for this Friday night, we did have a game, Clark Atlanta versus Florida Memorial. Unfortunately for the Lions, they were swept at the hands of Clark Atlanta, according to the Sun Conference website. Tough one there for the Lions as they try to kind of put together a little bit of a save right now heading into conference play. Biggest thing for Florida Memorial is just the errors. That's my concern, and we'll start with them. They're actually going to play at New College, and I have New College in the sweep. I think it's a situation where 2 teams relatively new in the sense of Florida Memorial first year head coach, new players in the program, and New College who is new in the conference. But I like the way New College is playing. I think they did a very good job at forcing Southeastern into a long 4 sets. Really made them pay. For me in that game, what was a takeaway was the fact that there was a balanced attack by New College, and you kept the errors down. 40 kills on 26 attack errors. That's very good. That's a very good stat line. Rafael Domingos, 28 assists, 15 digs for a setter. That's very impressive for the double-double performance. The frontline presence has been impressive for me so far. 7 players in that game against Southeastern with a block assist at least. And then you had 3 players with 10 plus digs in Maria Barrios, Domingos, and Jasmine Duss. I just like the way that they are playing. The thing with New College is, from at least that game, can't start slow. And that goes with anybody in the conference. You started in the first set. The only set you had a negative hitting percentage of .073, 5 kills, 8 errors, to the Southeastern Fire's 15 kills, 11 errors. If you maybe get that kill count, get that error count more even to the Fire, maybe you take set number 1. And now we're talking about a 2-2 situation, or you're forcing the Fire to have to kind of fight back early on in the set count. That's the difference when you play against the top teams. And when you play against any team right now in Sun Conference volleyball, for the Lions, it just comes down to the errors. That's really what it is. Even in their game on Wednesday against Ave Maria, 22 kills, 22 attack errors, 23 assists, 3 errors, 4 service aces, 9 service errors, 12 total blocks. You had 1 error in the block attempt, and 8 receiving errors, or 8 reception errors. You got to keep the errors down. That's really that simple. And I think if they do that, they might find themselves in better situations late. They might find themselves in situations where they have momentum, they have continuity, they have a foundation to try and build off of. And in the end, though, I do have New College in the sweep. I just feel like the Banyans are playing better volleyball right now. The Lions are kind of sputtering and need to figure out how to just play clean volleyball. That's really what it comes down to for Florida Memorial. We'll go from one Miami Gardens matchup to the other, both of them on the road, as St. Thomas will travel up to Warner. I have St. Thomas in a sweep. They are coming off of a nail-biting 5-set classic against Kaiser at Kaiser. I think that's a big boost for them as they try and muster through a long conference run for them where they have a target on their back. They cannot afford to go into any game, no matter if it's against Warner or Kaiser or anybody in between. You have to be locked in from the first set. You cannot bank on your talent, on your experience to get you through some of these games because I promise you, even though I have St. Thomas in a sweep, I would not be surprised if the Warner Royals play their best volleyball of the season. Warner, in their own case, they're coming off of getting swept by Weber at Weber. Similar to the Lions, 18 kills, 17 attack errors. I just think they need to bottle up that second set for Warner. If you cut down on the unforced errors, you continue to put on pressure, and sometimes a lot of errors come from you overthinking. You thinking too much on what the other team is going to do. Sometimes you just got to play instinct first, not necessarily think it through. And once you've got a rhythm, then we start kind of adding that mental side of the game. I still think St. Thomas has it a sweep. I just don't know if Warner can get one off of them. Against St. Thomas coming off of that 5 sets against Kaiser, 57 kills, 32 attack errors. The player of the game for me in that for St. Thomas, Sanaa Dennis, a little bit of a breakout game here, 17 kills with 6 total blocks. The blocks have been the biggest thing for the Bobcats. I mean, between Dennis and Barnes, 14 combined total blocks of the team's 26. The middle blocking has been the name of the game for St. Thomas, and they're a big reason that even some of these games, against Kaiser, it was the final point. Against Park, it was against, I believe it was, yeah, it was Park. The final point came on a block. So the middle blocking for St. Thomas has been absolutely ridiculous, and I think that's the key right now. And I just don't know anybody in the conference really that can battle with them in that situation. You also have a Bianca Grassi, 41 digs. You have Peyton Berkey, 49 assists, just one shy of another 50 assist performance. St. Thomas is St. Thomas. And I just think that's going to be too much for Warner in the end. Now we move on from St. Thomas and Warner to the other side of that 5-set classic, Kaiser at Weber. I do have Kaiser in 4. I do think Weber can get one off of the Seahawks. Weber is coming off of a sweep at home. I think that's a good boost for them. For me, player of the game, Nadia Reed, 9 kills, 8 dig service aces, the definition of consistency. She's been consistent pretty much ever since she put on a Weber jersey. I like Weber. I'm going to keep saying that. I think that their record does not show the type of team they are. 31 kills, 14 attack errors, 31 assists, 12 service aces, 14 service errors. Don't necessarily like that number, but that performance against Warner is what you need. I believe they should have swept, not gone more than 4 sets. They did that. I like Weber to at least get one off of Kaiser. That means if you're able to get 2, 5 set and the 5th set, 15 points, anything can happen. That set is over before you even know it. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I do think Kaiser, they kind of got a little chip on their shoulder. They're a little angry. I believe there is an upset to watch here if Weber plays clean and stays on go all match long. But in the end, if Weber even has close to those service errors, if you're not even giving yourself a chance in some of these rallies, it's going to be hard to beat the Kaiser Seahawks coming in on a mission right now to go get back to even in the Sun Conference record department. Final volleyball matchup for Saturday. Southeastern at Ave Maria. I've got another sweep here. Southeastern sweeping the Gyrenes. I just think it's a deeper Southeastern team versus an Ave team that's still trying to figure it out. Don't want to see the Fire give Ave any confidence, though. Again, Ave at home, just different animal, different beast, different dog. So I definitely want to see Southeastern come into this one, especially after a 4 sets. Again, it was a tough 4 sets against New College. The team played very well. For me, the player of the game, Kennedy Johnson, 12 kills, 12 digs, a service ace, and 2 total blocks. Like that performance for her. 2 other players that had a double-double, Camry Pope, 10 kills, 13 digs, and then Ali Postlethwaite, 23 assists, 11 digs. You also have Heaven Spear, 22 assists. This is why I say the depth of the Fire on offense and defense, because you had 4 players with double-digit digs, led by Marisa Connors with 25. This is a Southeastern team who seems very cohesive. They seem very together. They seem like they are trekking in the right direction. 50 kills on 28 attack errors, 49 assists, only 1 handling error. Not bad. Another team, though, 10 service aces. It's really high, especially in the game against New College, where, if I'm being honest, I mentioned that New College had a negative hitting percentage in their first set. Felt like felt like Southeastern gave them the chances in that first set to take it from them. In the first set, New College scored 21 total points, but they only had 5 kills. So that means that there was a lot more points coming off of Southeastern errors than there was New College kills, New College offense. And you can't have that against some of these other teams in the conference. And to be honest, New College almost took advantage of it. Again, if New College wins that first set, we might be talking about a different game here. So I definitely don't want to see Southeastern give Ave free points, because that's how you find yourselves in a situation where it's closer than it should be, and then Ave starts getting confident with themselves, and they start putting it on them. For the Gyrenes on their side of things, you did have a sweep against Florida Memorial on Wednesday. I like that for them, for their confidence. Player of the game, Beatrice at DC, 9 kills, 4 total blocks. The thing for the Gyrenes, it's always been the thing going into it that I've been saying for them. Can their offense match up with some of these other offenses? And you don't have to necessarily have somebody like a Taylor Barnes, a Mackenzie Pryor, someone who can just give you 15 kills, 12 kills even. If you have a bunch of 9 kill performances, 8 kills, 7 kills, just in that range, between 9 to 6 throughout that depth, that attacking, that offense, I think that can put you in positions to, get a service ace here. The other team gives you an error there. Before you know it, you're at game point, you're at set point, you're at match point. So I do think the Gyrenes have a pathway, but it definitely will be a team effort overall. So my final pre preview for volleyball side: Southeastern with a sweep over Ave at Ave, Kaiser in 4 over Weber, St. Thomas and New College sweeping against Warner for St. Thomas and against Florida Memorial for New College. Then we move over to men's soccer, the final team, the final sport that we will preview on this part of the episode before JB joins me here. We've got Kaiser at New College, we've got Florida Memorial at Weber, and we've got Ave at Southeastern. Those are the conference games, and then we do have Thomas at SCAD. Like SCAD in that one, feel like they can come out with that one, maybe even a 2-goal advantage, 2-goal difference there for SCAD. As for the conference games, these are some interesting ones. I'm not gonna lie with you. We'll start with the first one that I mentioned: Kaiser at New College. Another tie. The only reason I say that, I feel like New College is gonna go in there and try and make a statement, and I don't know if Kaiser's necessarily at full capacity right now. I think they're gonna get there. I'm not saying that this is a bad Kaiser team or anything like that. They're still ranked in the top 25, I believe, at 17 right now. But I just feel like there's another gear that they haven't found. They could find it this game. I firmly can see this being a Kaiser win. I'm not saying that it's the situation where Kaiser can't win this game. I just think going into it, Kaiser kind of not necessarily hitting on all cylinders. Meanwhile, New College, I think they're very game. They've been kind of flying under the radar, and I like that they are at home here. That's really what I like in the tie. If it was at Kaiser, I would lean Kaiser. I think they can muster out behind that home crowd. But in the end, I do think it's going to be a tight one that can go either way. And that's why I'm going to go with a tie there between Kaiser and New College. Florida Memorial at Weber. This is another one that's very interesting for me. And I like the Lions. I like the Lions simply because I feel like they're going to build off of their last win against FNU. I really believe that was a kind of calling card for them. I think that was a situation where you make a statement in that first game of the season was not your best showing, and that's not the team that we should expect to see moving forward. With that being said, though, I don't necessarily see it as a big win. I don't think it's going to be a monster win in any stretch of the imagination for this team for Florida Memorial. Weber's still a scrappy bunch. Weber is still a team that has that knack for finding ways to stay in games. The Lions have to come out ready to go. Again, that was a great win against Florida National. Great win. However, will that carry over is the question. If it does, I like Florida Memorial even on the road. Even on the road, I do think the Lions have the ability to do this, to pull it out. I think it's a 1-goal game. I don't think either team can hold on to a lead, because they're two scrappy teams that are just not gonna quit and not gonna say no. So unless one of these teams has an absolutely stellar day, I think we're looking at a Sun Conference Classic that will be separated by 1 goal when it's all said and done. Final one that we'll preview here before I send it over to myself and Josh: Ave at Southeastern. I like Southeastern. Simple as that. I think they had a good win against Thomas, winning 4-2. I think that confidence boost right before conference play is very important for any team, really. For the Ave, I just think you're too reliant on that offense. I think you're too reliant on too many individual players at times. If the entire team can dominate possession, if they can put pressure on Southeastern, I think they can make it close. But I just feel like Southeastern seems to be a team that people are also overlooking, but not necessarily because they are flying under the radar, just because they feel like they should be. I think people are expecting Southeastern to not necessarily have a big year or a deep run when it's all said and done. I like them. I like them in this matchup. I think it's a good way to start conference. Obviously not going to make it easy. No pushover here from the Gyrenes, but Southeastern should still handle this one. Think 2 goals is a safe bet here in the difference when the final whistle blows. Southeastern, I like them. I like them. I like the trend they've been on, and I think it's just going to be a bad timing for the Gyrenes when they start conference play here. So a recap for men's soccer. Kaiser and New College, I got a tie. If you had to make me pick one, I would say Kaiser with the win. But I'm going to say a tie here, one way or another. Florida Memorial with the win over Weber, scrappy one, tight one all the way through, 1 goal difference when it's said and done. And then Ave at Southeastern, I got Southeastern in that one in 2 goals. I think Southeastern can get a lead and hold on to it throughout the 90 minutes. But that's gonna do it for this part of the preview for the weekend. I'm going to kick it over to myself and JB now as we're going to talk some Sun Conference football. I know it's on a big thing going on this weekend. I'm joined by my good friend JB as we get ready for some Sun Conference. Honestly, I'd say it's probably the most packed Saturday we've had. Obviously, it's only week 3, so it's not necessarily a big thing to say, but games ranging from 12 in the afternoon till 7 p.m. A lot of top 25 potential top 25s as well. But Josh, obviously, first things first, how you doing? You ready for a packed Saturday?
Oh yeah, I'm very excited. There's a lot to prove. There's some big matchups. Kaiser's got another Division two opponent on their slate. Thomas has a handful with a big time program in Bethel. A top 10 showdown in Chicago, and St. Thomas takes on St. Xavier. And then another intriguing matchup with Reinhardt and Southeastern. Southeastern looking to get into those polls next week after 2 tough non-conference wins. So
No, yeah,
exciting.
and I think we're gonna start from the bottom up. We're gonna be different today. I want to start with Southeastern and Reinhardt because that one, you and I were talking about it before we hopped on just now, and I think that's the matchup that some people are kind of pegging as an underrated game of the week, and rightfully so. Like you mentioned, Southeastern, you beat Faulkner, who's a pretty established program, so to speak, in NAIA football. You got Reinhardt, who's right now at number 22. You gotta imagine if Southeastern can pull this off, they have a good chance of, like you mentioned, not just in the receiving votes picture, but maybe even flirting with top 25, right?
Absolutely. And the thing that makes this interesting is that they have a common opponent. It's because so Reinhardt played Faulkner last week, and 2 weeks ago Southeastern played Faulkner. So there's a common opponent there. So that kind of aids both teams in like film. Like you can kind of look at the film and compare and contrast, and it kind of benefits both teams. It makes it a little bit more interesting because it's probably going to be a little bit like the game's going to be a lot more focused than maybe some other games might be. But yeah, I think that common opponent's going to I think it might favor one team or another, whoever utilizes that stuff the best.
You know, we're talking about that Southeastern Faulkner game just a moment ago, and we mentioned how Southeastern didn't necessarily throw the ball a lot. We said what 5 total passes in
Yeah,
that
five
game,
attempts.
but we obviously had the 2 pick six. You had a great rushing game. So what do you see, or what can you see for Reinhardt for Southeastern, excuse me, to play against Reinhardt and benefit? Is it going to be another run game? Is it going to be a little bit more an even balance? Like what do you see for Southeastern here?
So looks like Faulkner's success during this game was on the ground. They had Thomas Marshall 16 for 103 on the ground. They struggled through the air 6 of 16, threw a couple touchdowns, but didn't really there was not much of an air attack there. It was more of on the ground, close defensive game. And same thing with Reinhardt. I mean, Reinhardt didn't throw the ball very much, and they ran it almost 40 times for over 200 yards. So it's looking like kind of maybe the same plan of attack. So it could be another defensive game. Whoever can make stops, create turnovers, and really block up front, because that's really the difference when you're trying to run the ball.
Something else I wanted to ask you, and this is just kind of reading into these games here, a little bit away from the football side. That Southeastern Faulkner game was at night, right? I know it was at Southeastern, but it was also at night, correct? This Reinhardt game is also going to be at night. Is there a difference between playing, like St. Thomas loves to have their games at 12, but is there something different to say that Southeastern likes to have their games at night at 7?
It's maybe just a comfort thing that they're used to playing under the lights. The sun's. I mean, obviously it's still hot, it's still humid, but it's not as bad. The sun's not, it's not radiating as much, obviously, as the sun's down. But I don't think. I mean, I don't think it plays a huge part into it. I mean, I think more so the home and away versus time of day,
Right, makes sense. Makes
especially
sense.
considering they're in the same time zone. Maybe if it was a different time zone, there would be some discrepancy. But because we're all in the East Coast, it won't really matter much, I don't think.
Yeah. So give me a pick of it right now. You got Southeastern in
South,
this one?
yeah, Southeastern, and I don't think similar fashion. I think it's gonna be kind of a close game, like Reinhardt and Faulkner was. Close game, defensive battle, a lot of ground and pound action.
And obviously, Reinhardt did play against St. Thomas last year in the NIA playoffs, and obviously St. Thomas handled them very, very well. So I think this is a big one for Reinhardt too, just kind of getting some get back with some Sun Conference opponents. But we'll go from one game that's pegged as, again, the game of the week. Some people are even saying an underrated one, to a game where I think we can pretty much be quick with it. Ave versus University of Fort Lauderdale. I think Ave Maria needs to come out and just have an absolutely dominant performance. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Fort Lauderdale is kind of fitting into these teams' schedules as kind of a confidence game. One of those, I guess, cupcakes, as you would. No disrespect to Fort Lauderdale. They just don't have the type of talent that some of these other teams have. They're growing, still a newer school, but you're definitely looking for Ave to kind of, figure out their kinks before they get into the meat of their schedule.
No,
Obviously,
absolutely. And
they're probably going to win pretty big.
we're gonna save the three of the best ones for last year. Now I want to just kind of get the non-conference ones out the way. So we'll go over to Florida Memorial versus Clark in Atlanta, I believe it is the school. You got anything for the people there? Or is this a simple? I think Florida Memorial needs to have a similar to Ave. I don't think it's going to be as dominant,
Uh,
but necessarily
yeah, I
something
mean,
like that.
Clark looks to have a pretty good offense to score 45 week one and 22 in week two, both conference games. Then they play Flomo and then Bethune Cookman next week. So I think that based on that knowledge, I think they might be an HBCU. So which would be an intriguing matchup. Florida Memorial and Clark both being HBCUs could, be kind of unique. But yeah, same thing. Florida Memorial should handle business. Should
Yeah.
be have a tune-up game for them as well.
I like that one, especially they got that few big ones coming up here the following week and the week after. But these last three games here, I think, along with Southeastern and Reinhardt, absolutely. But these other three are the ones that people are going to kind of keep their eye on. We've got Kaiser, another D2 opponent in Newberry, I believe it is who they
Yep.
are, and then Thomas versus Bethel, and then obviously St. Thomas Xavier. We'll start with Thomas and Bethel. I think obviously people are picking Bethel. I think that's the obvious pick here. What do you need to see from the Nighthawks for them to have a chance, for them to consider this a successful step in the right direction when it's all said and done, even if Bethel does come away with the win?
Bethel historically has a great defense and great quarterback play, so it's going to be kind of keeping the quarterback under control and kind of time of possession is going to be important because Bethel does play good defense. So you don't want them to hold the ball for too long, and then your defense is on the field all day. And it really just you want to see them be competitive because, like I said, this is their second year, so they're still new to football. A lot of young players, new coaching staff, like everything's still relatively new. So just being competitive is kind of like what everyone really would want to see.
No, I agree with you. I do think it's another one. And Nighthawks, I give them credit. They put them some tough games on their schedule to start the season, and I credit them for that because some first year programs, some newer programs, I should say, not first year, but some newer programs will kind of go the other route and just kind of get their footing under them. But they said no, we understand what the Sun Conference is, and we need to be faster, and we need to learn trial by fire, so to speak. And they're definitely going to do that at the ends of a top 25 opponent. But we go from the Nighthawks to the Seahawks in Kaiser, another D2 opponent. Does it happen again? Can the Seahawks come away with another statement win, so to speak, and prove why they're the number one team in the NAIA polls after another 2 weeks?
I think so. I mean, like I said earlier about the Southeastern, there's a common opponent here with Valdosta State. They played them last year, and took them to the wire. I believe they lost in the fourth quarter. They gave it up, but common opponent, they're gonna be familiar with this team. They're gonna have, to see how Valdosta played them compared to how they played Valdosta, so they can kind of get a good gauge. But I think Kaiser's unbelievable team, borderline probably could compete in Division II at this point in some conferences. I think they're one of the few outliers in NAIA, kind of like you see in some other divisions. There's just like a couple of teams that kind of maybe belong elsewhere, but they are where they are for a reason. I mean, student size or whatnot. But yeah, I think Kaiser's gonna win another D2 matchup and put some respect on the Sun Conference's name.
Do you
At
think it's a
Kaiser.
similar, a overtime game winning
Definitely a
field goal
close
type of
game.
thing?
Definitely a close game. I don't know if Kaiser's, got it like that to where that they can just boat race someone like that, but I think they will win though.
That's a big one for them. And another road game too. Again, credit Kaiser that they're not afraid to go travel on the road against these
And
North Carolina
and
schools, I believe, right?
and yeah, I mean, coach said, I mean, these games like prepare them for the season. They prepare them for the Sun Conference, kind of gauntlet, I guess people would say. And it allows them to, play tougher competition, different environments, maybe bigger crowds, traveling, like all those, have valuable experience in them, to, prepare them for maybe not just the Sun Conference slate, but also in the playoffs when they are doing a lot of traveling.
No, and I thought that's literally what I was thinking in my head. I'm the GA for the women's basketball team at St. Thomas, and we're getting ready for our season and all that good stuff. But I looked at our schedule, and there's a lot of road games, and the assistant coach he mentioned that he prefers road games because in playoffs you're not gonna like if you're talking about conference playoffs, you might have a home game, might host, but once you get to the NAIA playoffs, like you're not gonna be at home for the most part. You might have a game or two if you're a host site, but other than that you're going to be on the road. So you definitely got to get used to those schedules, the travel, all that kind of stuff. So I think, yeah, it's definitely helping Kaiser in their quest to repeat on the national scene. The final game here, a game that along with, the one we just mentioned with Kaiser, the Southeastern Reinhardt, this one might be the game of the week. St. Xavier, St. Thomas at St. Xavier. I believe these teams do have a little bit of history, and I'm sure you'll get into it in a minute here. What do you like from this matchup that could set a lot about St. Thomas?
I think just going on the road and playing a tough team. I mean, last week they hosted a top 25 team. Played in their favor on their own turf. Like you said, they like playing at noon. Everything kind of was playing in their favor. They kind of had their way with how they wanted to play offense and was successful on defense. But a competitive team on the road played them last year in a close game. So I mean, and St. Xavier's kind of balanced. They got a good running back, who carries it well, and they throw it a bunch too. So I think he did turn it over twice last week in a blowout. So that could be something to pay attention to if they can, make and create some turnovers that could help them out on Saturday. But I think it's going to be a very competitive game. But like with Kaiser, I think St. Thomas is one of those outliers. They're built a little bit different than some of these other teams. This team's they are from the Midwest. Historically, Midwest got some bigger dudes, some cornbread dudes. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, I think St. Thomas, like I said, is just one of the outliers and should be able to handle it.
Defensively, obviously, is where St. Thomas likes to make their money. You got Nick Angler, you got Caleb Walker, and a few of those type of guys who, Kendall Wilson, who's had an absolutely stellar run as a Bobcat. What do you think is going to be more important from the defensive side for St. Thomas? Is it going to be the D line? Is it going to be the pressure they can put on the QB on that type of the offense, or is it going to be the secondary? Is it going to be keeping the ball on the ground, so to speak? Because if it's a running back match, there is not too many people I'm taking over Rontavious Farmer.
Yeah, I think it's going to be being able to get to the quarterback and being able to, play in coverage because like, I mean, they ran 13 for 54. That's all right. I mean, but 20, the quarterback was 24 of 33 for 259 yards, and it was a blowout. So clearly, that's kind of their games through the air. So I think the combination of both is kind of what they're probably looking for. I don't think playing the runs is going to be too much of their concern. I think they'll be able to handle that.
Those three games, yeah, St. Xavier, St. Thomas, Kaiser, Newberry, and Southeastern Reinhardt. Of those three, which one are you most excited for? Which one are you most scared for in the sense of that the Sun Conference might lose? And in the end, do you see any of those three teams losing, not necessarily an upset, but dropping that matchup for this when the people are listening to it throughout the day?
So I think my favorite one, like that I'm looking forward to, would be Reinhardt and Southeastern because Southeastern gets that win. It kind of adds another layer of competitiveness to the conference. It kind of like adds that third team in there that's like, on the national scene beating like historically good teams. The team I could see maybe falling is Kaiser just because potentially could be unmatched, but we could be wrong. I mean, like I said, they could be competitive enough to be a Division II potential team. And I don't think there's a chance St. Thomas loses. That's just I don't see it happening.
Maybe
I
that's
don't
what
want to
it's
tackle
here.
Rontavious Farmer. I don't. I'm good. No,
Hey,
thank you.
tell that dude, you see him coming down the track,
No,
you
I'm
either
good.
move out the way or
I'm
he's gonna
good.
make you move out the way. It's one of the two things. But no, I think great analysis on all those games. Again, a jam-packed Saturday from noon till pretty much 7 at night. It's gonna be a lot of football to take in. I'm excited for it, and I know you will be too.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Absolutely. And I'm going to kick it over to myself and Kaiser Women's Soccer Lauren Riley as we talk a little bit about Kaiser and their success on the pitch for women's soccer. Now, joining me here on Suncast, a very special guest from women's soccer at Kaiser University, Miss Lauren Riley. Lauren, thank you so much for joining me.
No worries. Happy to be here.
No, honestly, the pleasure's all mine. I've been itching for Reagan to be able to get you on and just talk a little bit about women's soccer right now at Kaiser because you ladies have just been on a tear to start the season. Obviously, right now, you all are the number 2 team in the nation. You already have 2 big wins under your belt. But I just want to know, what are you crediting you specifically? What are you crediting this team's just start? Like, what's the reason behind this fast start, even though it's only a young season so far?
So for me personally, this is like my third year, and I just think this is the best start we've had to the season. I think mainly it's everyone's getting on board with what coach is saying, and it kind of started from the summer workouts that we got sent out, and everyone was really buying into what he was trying to do with us, and like everyone's put in everything they can. I think it's starting to show. Like even if they play 20 minutes or like 70 minutes, I think everyone is doing their part. And so far, it's been really good and it's been paying off. And everyone's happy with the team environment at the moment.
I mean, of course, the way you guys are winning, I'm sure everybody is happy right now. And Lauren, I'm sure the way you're playing, everybody's very happy with the way that is going for you. Last year, you had 7 goals at the end of the year. Right now,
Yeah,
we're only 3 games in, and you already have 3. So you're on pace to surpass that very, very quickly here.
yeah.
What do you think? What do you think is the reason for the aggressiveness so far that you've shown to find the back of the net consistently through your first 3 games?
So, like I said, we worked really hard in summer. So there's me and a few other teammates that stayed here in the summer, and we were out on the field like 6 a.m. every single day. So we had like obviously our team workouts that we were required to do, and then me and Georgia Little and Samantha, we had like crossing and finishing like constantly. So I think that really helped me, like you said, just finishing. Because a lot of times last year, like I'd be in the right positions, but I wouldn't be like finding the end result. So I feel like the repetition from that has really helped. And now like I've grown in confidence. So now it's my third year. And now that coach, like he's giving me the time. So now I've got to show him why he should keep me on the pitch. And I think like I owe a lot to him. So I think I'm in like a confident position, which is why my performance is good at the moment.
Oh, you just mentioned that you and a few other the players stayed. What was the reason behind staying? Obviously, there are some athletes that will stay throughout the summer for off-season work, but it's not an easy decision. So why did you feel
Yeah.
like that was a decision that you wanted to make and a sacrifice that you wanted to make for the betterment of the team?
So for me, like I said, George Little, it's a long way from home, I guess, not as far as her, but we stayed last season as well, last summer, sorry. We both live and work on campus. So for us, we have enjoyed every minute of it here since we both started together like 3 years ago. So we are making the most of our experience, whether that be on or off the pitch. So we stayed here for that reason. And then, so we were just working and working out all summer. And I feel like personally for me, if I'm here, I'm more like motivated and dedicated to go out there like twice a day and practice. Whereas back home, I feel like I struggle with that. I don't know why, but I feel like being here like motivates me a lot better.
No, and that's a big thing. You know, some athletes maybe know that but don't understand why. And in some athletes, it's hard to make that decision. And so I definitely credit you and Georgia for being able to make that sacrifice because it's definitely not an easy one. And because of that sacrifice, it's been a big reason that you guys have these two big wins that you guys are coming off of just this past weekend, really. And I want to know, of those two games against William Carey and against Tennessee Southern, for you specifically, which one was more impressive from a team perspective?
I would definitely say the William Carey game. From all of our history, like I feel like there's a lot of like rivalry that goes on between us two, and it's always a fight. And out of all the games in the year, I think this is the one that we as a team look forward to the most because we know that the battling is going to be good. And I also feel like that we did play better as a team when we played against them. I feel like we kind of were slow to get into the game against UTS. So I think our better performance was William Carey. And we worked hard for the whole duration of the game. And yeah, like I said, it's always a battle. And if you were watching and stuff, you could hear both benches like really going for it. Like it's always just a fun game to like be a part of, and especially to come out from a win. It's been a few years, so I've heard that we've actually beat them at that site. So it's been good.
I'm definitely gonna give my opinion out of the two, but I just want to know, being in those type of games, you know, it's one thing to play against some of the best teams in the conference, in the country, to play against multiple of the best teams in the country. What is it like from a player's perspective to be in that? And like you said, you know, it's not the first time you've done it, it won't be the last. Just talk a little bit about the ability to say, yeah, we've played in some big games throughout the season, not just at the end of it.
Yeah, so it's really good. Like I like Orange Beach as a whole. So like when we go there, we always do like team activities and stuff. It's my favorite trip of the year. And like you said, we always get put against tough opponents. So it's a good test to see where we're at as a team. Like I said, it's my third year doing it now. So it's like I've been at both ends. And it's kind of for us, it was like a rematch from last year because last year kind of lost out on our luck and we didn't get the result we wanted. But also then again, both teams last year played really well. I feel like this year, like I said, the team has come more together and more like accountable for our actions. So I feel like throughout the whole game, we like kind of try to fix our mistakes throughout. And I think that's what helped us, trying to minimize the mistakes because as you know, like the pitch was not the greatest either. We was in like a rain delay. So we had to control that. And I feel like this season we have done well to control that. We've been in multiple delays and the team as a whole has like handled that perfectly. So I feel like that was another advantage for us because we've been doing that for the whole preseason. So I think, yeah.
I mean, I definitely have a lot of questions, a few questions written up, but you just keep giving me such good stuff here. I gotta ask now. You know, I used to play soccer. We all understand how it is with rain delays and how they can just kind of come out of nowhere. They can be short, they can be long. We don't ever really know. Talk a little bit about, you know, for an athlete who their sport is outside and you're at the mercy of Mother Nature. How do you guys stay locked in? How do you guys prepare for the long delays that sometimes will end with the game being played, and sometimes it just means it's got to be another day?
So it's definitely hard. Like I've had to get used to it. Like back home, we just play for the rain because it's not really lightning. So, but it's the stop and start that I've had to get used to. And personally, for me, like if we're in a delay, like I can't sit still. So like I have to be moving, whether it's like juggling the ball or like I don't know, just on my feet. I can't sit, especially if we've played a half and then I just relax. Like it takes so much longer to get my body going again. So for me, I just like are always on the move. Everyone has their own ways. Like we'll put like the music back on, we'll get ourselves hyped up and stuff, or other people like to just chill. So it kind of depends on the person. But for me, like I've just got to keep moving and like I'm always asking like when are we going out? When are we going out? Like I want to get back out there. Like so I think it's just like handling that excitement, which I said like as a whole, I think everyone's done really well.
That's good. And do you have any funny rain stories, whether it's at Kaiser or somewhere else that you just something happened, there was a long delay, and this is something that you always remember?
Not particularly. But I remember back home, like we have like hail, so it's like icy rain. And I remember playing through that, like the game wasn't called off or anything.
Ooh.
And we were playing through that, and like it hurts when it hits your
Oh
ears,
yeah.
and it's just so painful. But like I said, from here at Kaiser, not really, because we always seem to go back out. It's only until this season. It's my first year that we haven't. So our first game of the season against Ave Maria, that was called off. So that was kind of a bummer. Like we all didn't like was all excited and we went
Yeah.
out and we actually warmed up and the warm up was good and everyone was ready. So that kind of sucked. But then like again, the team being more together again, it's like we all went to the gym when we like the game was called off. And there was like about 20 people in the gym, like trying to get their work in because obviously we missed out. So I feel like that has also helped us as well. The fact that everyone's like motivated to still keep going.
No, that's great to hear. You playing through hell is very impressive. Very impressive. Could not have been
Yeah.
me. So I give you credit for that. But I asked you about which one you thought was impressive. I personally thought the Tennessee Southern game was very impressive,
Mm.
just because you guys were down 1-0 at the half. You had to score 3 in the second half against a top team in the country. That's not an easy thing to do. So what was the team's mindset in the locker room at halftime, knowing you're down 1-0, but understanding that there's still a whole half to play?
So for us, this season, unfortunately, we've had to do well at coming back in games. I feel like there's been 3 or 4 games where we've been behind. So we've actually been starting like that. So when we came into the locker room, my coach was like, "You're lucky that in the second half you normally play your best performances," because it happened against Rollins as well. Like we came out and we were twice as better than we started the game. So for us, we knew that we could do it because we'd done it in all like the preseason games. Like a lot of us, we started a lot of the time behind. So it was just kind of getting everyone on board with that, like picking everyone up. Like I said, I feel like in the first half the performance was not as good as William Curry. So we were like stressing out because we knew that we could do better. It was just how we were going to fix that. So I feel like we needed the halftime in order to get that talk and get that out and say like, right now we need to go, like it's time. And I feel like everyone reacted to that well and everyone was ready to go for the second half. And then yeah, like you said, it's a great feeling coming from behind, a goal after goal after goal. So yeah, it was really good.
No, absolutely. Obviously, before that game, or even a little bit after that game, you all were number 8.
Mm-hmm.
Come out the next poll 2 weeks later, number 2. How did it feel? What was the reaction to seeing that 6 spot jump in the polls?
It was incredible because me and another teammate, we were sat in class and we knew that the rankings came out. So we were actually sat and we were refreshing the page. Like we were so eager to find out, and we were, like I said, we was really excited to see because we didn't kind of know where we was going to fall. We knew our performance was good, but we just didn't know. So then, yeah, me and that teammate was for 20 minutes just refreshing the page. Yeah, that was straight on our Instagrams. But yeah, it's a good feeling. But now it's just like it's hard because now everyone's going to come at us like full force, wanting to beat us. But in my first year, were first like the whole season, so we've just got to manage that again, and it should be good.
No, absolutely. Now, the team wasn't the only one that got national recognition. Miss NAIA Offensive Player of the Week. Were you surprised at getting this award for the first time in your career, or was this something that you knew you had a great performance? And I'm not gonna say you expected coming, but I'm not gonna say that understandably so if it was had crossed your mind. Were you surprised at all by this one?
I was surprised, yeah. Like we have a little like within Kaiser, we have our like athletes of the week. I was like, that's understandable, but I did not expect like the broadness of it. Like I didn't realize how many people would have watched and how like much recognition I would have had. But yeah, like I don't know. I feel like I wasn't expecting it because I hadn't really like watched the rest of the NIA, so I was unaware of what else was going on and who else was putting in good performances. So I would say it did come as a shock, but it's unreal to think about, and yeah, just very grateful.
It was definitely earned, well earned. Just who was the first person you told once they told you about
I
it
sent it
before
to
the
my
game?
parents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
love. You love to hear that. You love to hear
yeah.
that. A few more questions here for you. Obviously, conference is here. The weekend is upon us, where we're gonna be seeing some very great contests. Before the season, I like the mentality that Coach Matt Dunn and the team you all had. Like, you all definitely gave me the vibe of a team that's focused, that's locked in, and I know that hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten more intense. But I want to know, from your perspective, where do you see the growth in this short preseason? But it was an impactful one. Still was only 3 games, but you can still make a lot of growth in that. So have you seen that type of growth, even if it was a little bit, in the team at all?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I feel now, like, with these 2 massive games out of the way, he wants to use the bench. He always says to us how broad the bench is, and he wants to get players rotating in and out and giving more people more minutes. So, like, we're a good team as a whole, and I think he wants to showcase that. That it's not just 11 players that win everything and lose everything. It's the whole team, and he really has emphasized that we win and lose as a team. And I think everyone has brought into that, which is good. Which is, like, the attitudes are great, like the positivity is there, and I feel like that's what makes people want to play, like, in our team, like, play for each other. And, like, everyone's more, like, supportive of each other, like, each goal and each win, like, we celebrate it together. So I feel like that has been nice to see. I feel like we didn't really have that last year, or we was lacking that. But I feel this year we've definitely got, like, the team bondings there and togetherness.
No, it's definitely gonna be hard to beat a team not just as talented, but as put together as it sounds like you all are. For me, I think you guys are the favorites going to the conference right now, and rightfully so. Get #2 in the nation, have some big wins under your belt. Obviously, that target is massive. You mentioned it just a few moments ago. Even though you guys are not necessarily the reigning champion like that, there is a target on your back. You mentioned that it's happened to you and a few players for your first year. What are you gonna do to try and help with the overall players who might not be used to that, to get them, managing that pressure that you were talking about earlier?
So I think for us, like, as, like, upperclassmen, as you say, like, I think it's really trying to nail into newcomers that, like, every game is different, and the way that we are put on a pedestal, like, we could watch teams play against each other in our conference, but as soon as they play us, it's a different story. Like, the want and the drive from other teams playing us is like massive. And I think that's what I experienced in my first year. Like, we would watch teams and we would do, like, analysis and stuff, and they'd come out on game day and it'd be nothing like that. We'd be like, where did these people come from? But they're just so eager to play us. And I feel like as long as we match that and control that, like, we should put in a good fight and not be complacent. I think that's the biggest thing.
No, it definitely sounds like they have a good leader here to help guide them through a big aspect of the season. Final question here, and I'm going to keep it simple. What is it going to take for the Kaiser Seahawks women's soccer team to add another regular season championship to the archives on the website?
I think we can just keep going on, keep progressing, and keep this, like, streak that we're on. I think the more wins we get under our belt, the more confident we'll get. And like I said, if the team just keeps sticking together and buy into what the coach is telling us, I think we're on a good track.
No, I think you guys are on a great track. Don't be humble. You guys are on a great one. But Lauren, thank you so much for the time. I love the interview, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.